Welcome back for today's video where I'm going to walk us through a hypothetical projection on how the pledged delegates would be divvied up among the top four candidates in this 2020 Democratic primary, those being Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren. And what I'm going to do is use the current average of the polls and where the candidates stand as we divvy up those pledged delegates and how it might look as we're exiting the month of February, going into that critical month of March, where a ton of the pledged delegates are going to be up for grabs. So in terms of the early states, not all that consequential in the number of pledged delegates that are going to be up for grabs. What is consequential is building positive momentum and a positive narrative around your campaign through that first month before heading into that critical month of March. So we're going to have Iowa at 41 pledged delegates, New Hampshire has 24, Nevada has 36, and South Carolina has 54. And we're just going to go through state by state, divvying things up based on where the polls currently stand. And again, this is just a hypothetical projection. Things are likely to be a bit different, especially as we move our way through these last couple of months before we actually head into those early states and get things going. So we're going to start off here with the state of Iowa. And actually, all of the candidates are reaching that minimum threshold of 15 percentage points to be part of the candidates that divvy up those 41 pledged delegates. Now, what I did here is I took the candidates, divvied it up based on their percentages amongst themselves. So with that being the case, Biden able to bring in 9 pledged delegates in the state of Iowa. Buttigieg leading the way, bringing in 13. Bernie Sanders able to grab 10, just a little bit more than Warren and Biden. And Warren was also able to grab 9 in this scenario, divvying them up proportionally. So when you add them up, you have 13 plus 10 is 23, plus 9 is 32, plus another 9 is 41 pledged delegates. And that's the number that we have there from Iowa. So now moving over to the next state in this process, which would be New Hampshire. Actually, only 2 candidates able to get past that 15 percentage point threshold, that being Buttigieg as well as Sanders. But it is important and worth noting that a lot of these polls, they give people the option of not being sure who they're going to vote for. Those people are going to have to make up their mind on election day. So a lot of these candidates can perform a little bit better on election day than what we're seeing in some of these polls. But nonetheless, with this hypothetical, we're just going to go off the average of what the current polls are saying. So in this one, Biden wasn't able to reach that 15 percentage point threshold. So he's going to bring in 0 pledged delegates. Buttigieg, of those 24, he's going to be able to get 13 of them proportionally. And then Sanders is going to be grabbing 11 in this hypothetical. And then Warren also just barely not able to get over that 15 percentage point threshold, so she would grab 0 in this instance. So 13 plus 11 is going to be 24 pledged delegates, which are all that are up for grabs in the state of New Hampshire. Now going over another state here to Nevada. And we have Biden, Warren, and Sanders all reaching over that 15 percentage point threshold, so they're going to be able to divvy up those 36 pledged delegates. So in this scenario, Biden leading the way, bringing in the most pledged delegates here at 16. Buttigieg would pick up 0. Bernie Sanders would pick up 10. And then Elizabeth Warren would also pick up 10 in this scenario. So we have 16 plus 10 is 26, plus another 10 is 36, all of the pledged delegates there that we have out of the state of Nevada. And now the last state, as we work our way to the end of the month of February, a key one for Joe Biden. And really for the Biden campaign, even if they aren't able to have a ton of success in the first 3 states, he's probably going to have something in the way of success in South Carolina, which could be a very positive narrative to him before we head into the critical Super Tuesday, which just has a treasure trove of pledged delegates up for grabs. It could be his saving grace in this process. Now, in this one, the only 2 candidates that were able to get over that threshold were Biden and Warren, and Biden significantly so. And we look here at the state of South Carolina, 54 pledged delegates, so the largest out of the first 4 states. So Biden in this scenario is going to pull in 37 pledged delegates. And then Buttigieg at 0. Bernie Sanders also bringing in 0. And Elizabeth Warren was the other candidate that was divvying them up in this scenario, and she would bring in 17. So we have that 37 plus 17 is 54 pledged delegates out of the state of South Carolina. So adding all these numbers up, getting through that month of February, Biden would have 62 pledged delegates. Pete Buttigieg would have 26. Bernie Sanders would have 31, and Elizabeth Warren would have 36. So all relatively competitive among themselves here. And again, not super consequential in terms of the number of pledged delegates that are up for grabs in these early states. What is consequential is building that positive narrative before heading into Super Tuesday, where we have all of these blue states. If we scroll down and take a look at the numbers, through February, it's only 3.9% of the total number of delegates that are up for grabs. On Super Tuesday, it's 34.1%. So things can change very quickly as we turn into the month of March. Just as a hypothetical, so we just got a poll out brand new from the state of California, which has 416 pledged delegates, and the only two candidates that were able to get above the threshold of 15% in that particular poll were Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Sanders was at 24%, Warren was at 22%. So moving the calendar over to March in just this one state, divvying up the pledged delegates, the 416 in that instance, it would be an extra 217 for Bernie, and it would be an extra 199 for Elizabeth Warren, where Biden and Buttigieg were just a little bit below that 15 percentage point threshold. And it can show you how quick things change heading over to the month of March, where we actually have a ton of these pledged delegates up for grabs, and the significance and importance of not just doing well early on in these states that have a limited number of pledged delegates, but also carrying positive momentum over into the month of March, where a lot of this is going to be decided. We have 34.1% of the pledged delegates that are going to be up for grabs on Super Tuesday, and then 27.4% through the rest of the month of March. So over 60% of the pledged delegates throughout this whole, we have 6 months here that this process is going to last. Just that 1 month of March has over 60% of the pledged delegates up for grabs. I actually wouldn't mind if they spread it out a little bit more than this, but it's the decision that they've decided to make through this process. So that's what I wanted to talk about in today's video, going through and just doing a hypothetical projection on how the first 4 early caucus and primary states could play out. And in that scenario, Biden was leading the way at 62, where you had Warren in second place at 36, Sanders in third place at 31, and Buttigieg in fourth place at 26. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. Consider subscribing to the YouTube channel, and hope to see you guys back here for future videos.